And I laid him down and so I could get his diapers ready. And somebody said, "Hola," and that's all I remember. And I saw white.
It's just a baby. Just give our son back, please.
On TV, they looked like broken parents, devastated, distraught, begging for their baby Emanuel to come home. The world leaned in, heartbroken for them. But behind those tears, detectives were already side-eyeing their story. Something wasn't adding up. For days, police searched. Volunteers canvassed neighborhoods. Canine units swept through fields and parking lots. Everyone prayed for the kidnapped baby to be brought back safe. But the search didn't lead to a rescue. It unraveled into one of the darkest and most disturbing child abuse cases California has ever seen. Surveillance tapes showed nothing. And soon, the very parents America was rallying behind became the prime suspects. So how do we go from a supposed kidnapping to murder charges? And most haunting of all, where is baby Emanuel? This is the disturbing case of baby Emanuel, the 7-month-old baby murdered while parents were crying on live TV. The 911 call came in just after 7 p.m. on August 14th. On the other end of the line, 41-year-old Rebecca Harrow. Her voice panicked, distressed, saying her baby boy, 7-month-old Emanuel, was gone. And the way she told it, it sounded less like reality and more like something straight out of a bad horror movie. According to Rebecca, she and her husband Jake had been at a local park for their son's football practice. At some point, she drove over to a Big 5 Sporting Goods on Ucapia Boulevard to grab a mouth guard, bringing baby Emanuel along for the ride. Just another quick errand until the nightmare began.
I came over here, I parked right here in this edge. When I was coming over here, I smelled the baby went to the restroom. It's like, "Okay, Papa, don't worry, we're gonna change you."
Rebecca said she parked, laid Emanuel down next to his car seat, and went to grab a diaper when suddenly a stranger approached her.
I was gonna get the diaper and somebody said, "Hola," and I didn't see nothing since. I woke up right here on the floor, and I didn't see Emanuel.
When she came to, she had a black eye and no baby. In a panic, she searched around the car, sprinted inside the store screaming, and finally called the police. Within minutes, deputies swarmed the scene. Helicopters circled overhead, canine units were sniffing for a trail. For a moment, it felt like the entire town stopped to help find baby Emanuel. Authorities quickly released a description: 21 pounds, brown hair, brown eyes, cross-eyed. But despite the urgency, the search came up empty. No suspects, no vehicles, no trace of an abductor. And here's the twist. Because there was no hard evidence of a kidnapping, this case didn't even qualify for an Amber Alert. That decision alone left people asking questions. By the next day, officials were still calling it an active investigation. But behind the scenes, detectives were already wondering if Rebecca's dramatic parking lot attack ever happened at all. And the more they dug, the stranger things started to look. As police scrambled to find baby Emanuel, his parents Rebecca and Jake wasted no time going on TV. Rebecca painted this heart-wrenching picture of their son, a happy, healthy little boy who loved playing with his toys.
"No, he's gone. I can't find him. If you know anything, please come and bring my son back. Please, I'm begging you."
Jake jumped in too, insisting they had no enemies, no drama, nothing that could explain why anyone would snatch their baby.
"We took my son, please return him. We just want him back. We won't do anything to you. We just give us our son. Just keep him safe, don't hurt him. Make sure you feed him, change him."
On camera, they looked like the definition of devastated parents. And for people watching at home, it was gut-wrenching. The community rallied behind them, flyers went up, volunteers hit the streets, even nonprofits stepped in with reward money, desperate to bring Emanuel home. But then, the story started cracking. It began when detectives pulled hours of surveillance footage from that Big 5 parking lot. If Rebecca's story was true, there should have been something on that tape. But what did they see? Nothing. No strangers, no struggle, no sign of an abduction taking place. That was the first red flag. Investigators started interviewing people who had been at the store that evening. Not one person remembered seeing Rebecca attacked or anything suspicious. But the unraveling didn't stop there. Detectives discovered Emanuel hadn't even been seen at the football game his parents swore he attended that night. The very detail that was supposed to prove he was alive completely collapsed. And then came Rebecca's black eye. She displayed it in interviews like a badge of her so-called attack. But neighbors told a different story. They claimed they saw her with that bruise the day before the alleged kidnapping. That's when people started rewatching the couple's interviews. At first glance, Rebecca and Jake looked heartbroken, crying, emotional, exactly what you would expect from desperate parents. But watch closer and something feels off.
The healthy baby he was crawling, he was kicking, he was playing with his toys.
They slip into past tense when talking about Emanuel. Their eyes stay dry. The sobbing looks almost staged.
No matter how their voice was breaking, there was not a single tear squeezed out, not by Rebecca and not by Jake. And it almost came across as performative.
With each revelation, the support for the Harrows started drying up. Nonprofits that had once stood proudly behind them quietly backed away. The reward money disappeared. Even the Uvalde Foundation for Kids, which had been leading the charge, made a public statement withdrawing its support. We cannot, in good conscience, utilize our team and resources when so much is missing in this case. Of particular concern to us lies within the inconsistencies in the details and the sudden decision by the mother to end communication with law enforcement and our team. Tell me, what parent would do that who is missing a child? Something is not right in this whole picture. So now the community was left facing an unsettling question. If the parents weren't telling the truth about the kidnapping, then what exactly were they hiding? And the answer to that question would turn this case darker than anyone ever imagined. By August 18th, just 4 days in, this case had already flipped on its head. What began as a frantic kidnapping investigation quickly shifted. Detectives were no longer treating this as a rescue mission. They were openly saying they could not rule out foul play. Once police changed direction, things got very real. They stormed the Harrow home with search warrants and tore through every corner. They seized Jake's car and collected electronics, and what they reportedly found inside was chilling. Family insiders later told reporters that some of Emanuel's photos and clothes were missing, almost as if someone was trying to erase proof that he had ever lived there. But it gets worse. Investigators even ripped up floorboards that had suspicious red stains on them. Let that sink in. At this point, things were not just off, they were downright damning. Detectives eventually laid it out clearly. The kidnapping never happened. Emanuel had not been snatched by some mysterious stranger in a parking lot. Investigators believed he was already gone, sometime between August 5th, the last day anyone actually saw him alive, and August 14th, when Rebecca suddenly picked up the phone and reported him missing. And here's the hardest part to even say out loud. Authorities do not believe Emanuel's death was sudden.
Baby Emanuel was abused, victim of child abuse over time, and that eventually, because of that abuse, he succumbed to those injuries.
But as if that was not disturbing enough, rumors started swirling online. People claimed Rebecca had been at that very same Big 5 days earlier, not with a missing baby, but allegedly asking employees about security cameras after saying her car had been broken into. And the speculation was brutal. Was she scooping out the store ahead of time? Was the kidnapping story just a cover-up because baby Emanuel was already gone? That thought alone shook people to the core. How could anyone harm their own child and then lie about it?
I don't know what people get in their head just to hurt the baby. It's just so sad.
Tears from strangers for a baby they never even knew. Tonight, community members organized a candlelight vigil at the home of 7-month-old Emanuel Harrow, who investigators now say was murdered by his own parents.
And just as the pressure was mounting, Jake made a move that raised even more suspicion. He got a lawyer. On its own, that's not unusual. Protecting yourself legally is normal. His attorney, Vincent Hughes, appeared on TV, insisting Jake was innocent and fully cooperating. But then he slipped in one chilling detail. He was not representing Rebecca. Then, on August 22nd, it all came crashing down. Police swarmed the Harrow's Cabazon home and arrested both Jake and Rebecca on the suspicion of murder. The same parents who had been sobbing on television just a week earlier were now being led away in handcuffs.
Here this morning, the San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department showed up at the home in Cabazon with an armored vehicle to arrest Emanuel's parents, Jake and Rebecca Harrow. This after a week-long investigation into their claim that Rebecca was knocked unconscious before their baby was kidnapped.
But even with the arrests, the most heartbreaking truth remained. Emanuel's tiny body had still not been found.
We have a pretty strong indication of where the remains of baby Emanuel are. That investigation is ongoing at this time.
So the question hung heavy in the air. If police thought they knew where Emanuel was, why hadn't they brought him home? The silence only fueled the speculation, and what happened next would turn this already tragic case into something that felt ripped straight out of a crime drama. Now, detectives have been really tight-lipped about the evidence they've got on Rebecca and Jake, but the reports that have been swirling are wild. According to some outlets, after the arrest, Jake actually confessed. The story goes that he told investigators he accidentally rolled over baby Emanuel while sleeping. He allegedly disposed of his son's tiny body by burying him in a remote area near the 60 freeway. Not long after, police were even spotted searching a rugged valley off that freeway about 10 miles where baby Emanuel was allegedly taken. And Jake tagged along, shackled, wearing an orange jumpsuit, walking through the rugged field with investigators. Now, was he actually helping? Not at all. Police later said he wasn't cooperative, but experts pointed out that maybe it wasn't about his cooperation. Maybe it was about psychology, watching his body language, seeing if he slipped up, because sometimes that says more than words ever could. Cadaver dogs were also deployed, but the search still came back empty. And just when it seemed like the story couldn't twist any further, it did. News Nation's Brian Enton, citing sources, claimed that after that failed search, Jake gave another confession. This time, he supposedly admitted that after killing his son, he dumped him into a trash can. And the way that confession allegedly came out, not in an interrogation room or in court, but in a setup inside his jail cell. Investigators reportedly planted an undercover inmate to push Jake into spilling the truth. They even tried the same trick with Rebecca, hoping she would crack too, but she didn't. She held firm, doubling down on her story. So what's real and what's a rumor? That's where things get messy because the district attorney came out swinging.
I can tell you that that's not true.
He dismissed the reports as nothing more than rumors and keyboard warrior speculation. In his words, what you just said is not true. So now we're left with a haunting question. If there is no confession, no body, and no hard evidence in the public eye, what really happened to baby Emanuel? Since their arrest, Jake and Rebecca have stood by each other every step of the way. From jail, Jake told reporters that his wife is innocent. Rebecca in turn doubled down, insisting Jake is a good dad who would never hurt his kids. But here's the problem. Jake's record tells a very different story. Court records show that when baby Emanuel vanished, Jake was already on probation. Why? Because back in 2018, he was charged with brutally hurting another child he was supposed to protect. That child was his daughter from a previous marriage.
Her name is Carolina. She is still alive today, but she is permanently bedridden. She has permanent damage, cerebral palsy, that is a result of long-term child abuse.
Both Jake and his ex-wife pleaded guilty to abuse, neglect, and cruelty. But instead of prison, they walked away with probation. Probation for the damage they caused.
That decision was absolutely outrageous. Mr. Harrow should have been in prison at the time that this crime happened. And if If that judge had done his job as he should have done, Emanuel would be alive today.
Even the sheriff agreed, saying this whole thing was preventable.
There is absolutely nothing worse than harming a baby. Broken bones, injuries, life-altering trauma. And had that case been successfully handled how it should have been, Emanuel would still be with us today.
But Jake's legal problems didn't stop there. In July 2024, while he was still on probation, he was allegedly arrested again in Banning, this time for having a gun and ammunition. Piece by piece, a chilling picture was forming. Jake wasn't just troubled, he was violent, uncontrollable, and dangerous. The red flags were everywhere, and yet no one stopped him. And now it was too late.
Here we have to understand what you're dealing with is an experienced child abuser.
But here's the part no one saw coming. This wasn't the first time someone in this family had been linked to violent crime. It turns out Rebecca's past hides a disturbing secret of its own. She has a brother who is currently serving life in prison for murder. Yeah, you heard that right. His name is James Buchanan, and he was convicted of killing his girlfriend, Jalen Amanda Keith, and then tried to make it look like she did it to herself. The details are horrifying. On March 15, 2017, 27-year-old Jalen was found in the bathtub of their apartment with a single gunshot wound right to the forehead. When investigators questioned James, he claimed he had been asleep. James was a gun guy, like really into guns. There was no way he wouldn't recognize the sound of a gunshot. The trial made things even uglier. James had a history of heavy drinking, stints in rehab, constant fights with Jalen, and here's the kicker. The day before she died, Jalen told her family she was planning to leave him. Investigators believe James knocked her out, put her in the bathtub, and shot her in the head. By 2018, he was sentenced to 50 years to life. So when people learned this about Rebecca's brother, the questions started flying. People couldn't help but wonder, is this just coincidence? Or does darkness run in this family's blood? This case is still unfolding, so there are still a lot of things we don't know. Right now, Rebecca and Jake are both being held on $1 million bond each. Rebecca continues to insist she's innocent, saying she just wants to be out there searching for her son. But investigators aren't buying it. They're convinced baby Emanuel's already gone. And it's hard not to see this as yet another case where the warning signs were there all along. But no one acted until it was too late. It raises some painful questions. How many tragedies like this could be prevented if past abuse cases were actually dealt with the way that they should be? And maybe the hardest question of all, how many other kids are still out there living in the same kind of nightmare Emanuel never escaped?